So, whether you are listening to this on your morning commute or maybe you're out taking a walk right now, I want you to picture a doctor.
Just the classic image, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's usually this one highly specific image that pops into our heads. I mean, it's the white coat, sure,
hmm
but mostly it's the stethoscope.
Oh, for sure. The ultimate symbol.
Right. It's this incredibly iconic
Mhm.
piece of analog equipment just draped around their neck. You sit on that crinkly paper on the exam table,
Always so loud.
always. And they hold that cold metal disc to your chest and they just listen.
Yeah,
It's deeply personal
it is.
and it's physical. It relies entirely on human senses and human memory to figure out what's going on inside you. But the stack of research we're deep diving into today suggests that analog tool, and frankly, that entire framework of human-reliant medicine is totally being replaced.
Replaced by massive data sets, right? And ambient sensors.
Exactly. And artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the stethoscope has always been the symbol of the doctor as the solitary expert,
Yeah.
you know? Like, they hear a murmur, they reference this vast encyclopedia of medical knowledge that they spent a decade cramming into their brain.
A very stressful decade, yeah.
Exactly. And then they make a judgment call based on their own personal heuristics. But we are now standing right at the intersection of human biology and computational sciences.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. And that solitary expert model, it's completely fracturing.
Now, I know where your mind probably goes when you hear the words AI and medicine in the same sentence.
Dystopia.
Totally. You immediately picture this cold, dystopian sci-fi scenario. Glowing robots replacing human doctors, healthcare becoming this sterile mechanical assembly line.
Which sounds terrifying, honestly.
Right. But the reality we're looking at today presents a massive counterintuitive paradox. Turning a huge chunk of healthcare over to machines might actually make medicine more human than it has been in a century. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to understand the sheer scale of this paradigm shift, we really have to look at the historical baseline. Because for centuries, the fundamental utility of a doctor was essentially acting as a high-capacity memory bank.
Literally just storing information.
Exactly. They were the ultimate authority who stored an immense amount of anatomical and chemical knowledge in their head. But, you know, the human brain has a hard biological limit.
Yeah, we can only hold so much.
Right. And today, the sheer volume of peer-reviewed medical literature that gets published every single week, it is physically impossible to absorb.
So a human doctor can't just speed read a few medical journals over their morning coffee anymore.
Not even clear.
You can't just casually say current on the bleeding edge of oncology or neurology. The data volume has completely eclipsed our cognitive ceiling.
Which forces this first major evolution, right? The transition from the doctor as a memory bank to the doctor as an information manager. We are entering the era of precision medicine. We're abandoning that generalized, one-size-fits-all approach because AI serves as this unprecedented cognitive capacity booster.
Like giving the doctor a supercomputer for a brain.
Basically, yeah. When a physician sits down to diagnose a complex case today, an integrated AI assistant isn't just pulling up simple search results.
It's doing more than just a Google search.
Way more. It is actively synthesizing the entirety of the world's medical literature. It's overlapping it with live clinical trials and cross-referencing global case studies all in milliseconds.
Wow. And it's not just text analysis either, right?
No, not at all.
Because when we get into radiological imaging, so MRIs, CT scans, X-rays, human vision is inherently limited by low contrast differentials.
We just can't see the tiny details.
Right. So an AI utilizing advanced convolutional neural networks isn't just glancing at a scan, it is interrogating the image voxel by voxel.
And the mechanistic difference in how an algorithm sees tissue compared to a human radiologist is just, it's mind-blowing.
Oh, so, what's it actually doing?
Well, the neural network layers filter for distinct micropatterns. So one layer might identify edge detection, while another looks at geometric cellular clusters.
Okay, so it's breaking the image down into maps.
Exactly. It can identify a microscopic density anomaly, like, say, a tiny cluster of microcalcifications indicating an early-stage lesion.
Something a human would miss.
Completely miss. To the human eye, it just registers as background static, but the AI catches it instantly.
See, that fundamentally changes the diagnostic starting line. It's essentially like, okay, imagine you're a human trying to navigate a dark, unfamiliar city with a paper map.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. You're inherently guessing based on landmarks. You take a wrong turn, you backtrack, You just kind of hope you find the address eventually.
Which is very stressful.
Extremely. And that is the historical trial and error approach to medicine. You prescribe a medication, wait a month, observe the side effects.
If it fails, you try a different dosage.
Exactly. But these clinical decision support systems powered by AI, they act like a dynamic, multi-dimensional GPS system.
Yeah.
Yes, a GPS that instantly knows every road and shortcut.
Right. They merge your specific genomic sequence, your historical medical timeline, and real-time biometrics to calculate a completely bespoke molecular treatment path.
And it predicts how your specific biological makeup will metabolize a certain compound. So it effectively eliminates that whole trial and error phase.
Which saves so much time.
Time and suffering. The doctor is no longer the person trying to memorize the paper map. They transform into a highly data-literate professional.
An auditor, almost.
Precisely. They manage this massive influx of synthesized information and interpret the AI's probabilistic models to guide you, the patient, through the absolute best options.
But wait, let me ask you this. If this system is perfectly pinpointing cellular anomalies at a microscopic level, like way before things get bad, doesn't that logically shift the entire timeline of when we even interact with doctors? Like, if the AI can catch a tumor at stage 0, why are we waiting for a patient to schedule an appointment because they found a lump? That is the exact shift happening right now. If we connect this to the bigger picture, traditional medicine functions almost exclusively as a reactive repair shop.
A repair shop?
Yeah. Think about it. You don't take your car to the mechanic unless it's making some terrible grinding noise, right?
Oh, guilty. Yeah, I definitely wait until the check engine light is glaring at me.
We all do it. And similarly, our entire healthcare infrastructure only activates after a biological failure occurs. You feel pain, you develop a persistent fever, and then you go to the clinic to be repaired.
Right, you wait until it's broken.
Exactly. But AI and ambient wearable technology are completely inverting that timeline. They're turning it into a proactive, continuous health architecture.
And this is where the concept of the lab home comes in, which really pushes this to the extreme. Because we were long past the era of a smartwatch simply counting your steps, right?
Oh, yeah. We are talking about continuous, passive biometric monitoring happening constantly in the background of your domestic life.
Just living your life while your house checks your vitals.
Imagine the diagnostic capability of an intensive care unit embedded seamlessly into your bathroom.
Into the bathroom.
Yeah. So the mirror utilizes multispectral imaging. It essentially uses ambient light to track microvariations in your facial blood flow.
While I'm just brushing my teeth.
Exactly. It uses photoplethysmography to detect subtle vascular issues. And the plumbing in your toilet is equipped with solid-state microfluidic sensors.
Wait, sensors in the toilet.
Yeah. They utilize Raman spectroscopy to continuously analyze your molecular waste. They're looking for volatile organic compounds or shed proteins that act as early biomarkers for disease.
Okay, I have to be honest here. Having a smart toilet analyzing my chemistry and a mirror tracking my blood flow, it sounds a bit like an invasive surveillance state.
It does sound intense.
There is a heavy psychological weight to being monitored 24/7. Like, what happens if a red light starts flashing on my mirror while I'm just trying to get ready for work?
Yeah, the panic could be real.
The anxiety of constantly waiting for a diagnostic alert just seems overwhelming.
And you're not wrong. That psychological friction is a massive hurdle in adoption right now. However, the counterweight to that anxiety is the eradication of late-stage terminal diagnoses.
Because it catches it so early.
Exactly. The system establishes a flawless high-fidelity baseline of your normal biometrics over years, so it catches the deviation instantly.
Before you even feel it.
Right. A subtle irregularity in your cardiac rhythm or a spike in specific blood proteins triggers an alert months before you ever experience the physical symptom of a heart attack or the pain of advanced cancer.
You get treated while you still feel perfectly healthy. So wait, if we are constantly monitored in these lab homes, does that mean the traditional waiting room as we know it is effectively dead?
I mean, basically, yes. If you never actually feel sick because your ambient sensors catch everything early, there's no reason to go sit in a sterile clinic.
Reading 3-year-old magazines surrounded by coughing people?
Exactly. The physical waiting room footprint will dramatically shrink. The physician's role evolves into what researchers are calling a health architect.
A health architect.
I like that. Instead of waiting for your biological engine to break down, they review your continuous data streams, your genetic predispositions, and your lifestyle to architect a lifelong prevented health route.
Now, all of this advanced technology, biosensors in the plumbing, algorithms tracking our blood oxygen, AI parsing our genome, it sounds incredibly cold, and sterile.
It sounds like we're being reduced to data points on a server rack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the source material reveals what I think is the most brilliant paradox of this entire shift. By injecting this hyper-advanced invisible technology into their medical ecosystem, we actually trigger what they call an empathy renaissance.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is the mechanics of this renaissance. To understand it, we have to isolate the biggest structural flaw in modern clinical practice.
Which is the paperwork, right?
The administrative chokehold. Physicians today spend over half of their clinical hours performing data entry, navigating these incredibly clunky electronic health record systems, and coding billing requirements.
Which is crazy. Think about your last doctor's appointment. They walk into the room, offer a quick greeting, and then immediately turn their back to you to stare at a laptop.
Typing away.
Frantically typing while firing off questions. The eye contact is broken, the body language is closed off, and the human connection is just severely compromised.
Because a highly trained medical professional is essentially operating as a glorified stenographer.
Right.
The human touch is actively suppressed by the cognitive load of documentation, but ambient natural language processing, or NLP, is designed to entirely absorb that burden.
And we aren't just talking about simple voice-to-text dictation here, like on your phone.
No, not at all. Advanced clinical NLP utilizes deep contextual semantic extraction.
Right, so imagine you walk into the consultation room, and there is no laptop. The doctor just sits facing you, entirely present.
Just looking at you.
Yeah, and you have a completely natural conversation. You might say, my stomach has been killing me for 3 days and my chest feels tight. The NLP system is operating invisibly in the background.
Using diarization to separate your voice from the doctor's.
Exactly. It understands the temporal mapping that the stomach pain started 72 hours ago. It differentiates casual chatter from clinical symptoms and instantly formats that entire fluid conversation into structured medical notes.
It automatically queues up the relevant lab orders and prescriptions, too.
The administrative friction just vanishes in real time.
And this is the catalyst for the empathy renaissance. By offloading the data processing to the algorithm, the physician physically and mentally gets their bandwidth back.
They can actually be a human again.
Right. They can look at you, read your microexpressions, validate your fears. They can focus on the psychological component of healing, which clinical studies repeatedly show directly impacts physical recovery rates.
So the division of labor is suddenly optimized. The machine handles the data, and the human handles the morale.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. AI is returning empathy to the consultation room, but its physical applications in the operating room are literally transcending human physical limitations.
Yes, we are entering an era where surgical precision is no longer constrained by human biology.
Because even the most elite surgeons in the world are bound by their mammalian physiology. I mean, they experience cognitive fatigue during a 12-hour procedure.
Of course they do. And they have natural microscopic hand tremors resulting from their own heartbeat and respiration.
You can't turn off your heartbeat.
Right. But an AI-driven robotic arm is immune to those biological realities. It utilizes dynamic low-pass filtering to actively cancel out the surgeon's physiological tremors.
So it translates a human hand movement into a flawlessly smooth sub-millimeter tissue incision.
Exactly, minimizing tissue damage in ways a human hand just couldn't achieve alone.
But it goes far beyond a robotic assistant simply standing next to the operating table, right? We're talking about telemedicine and telesurgery.
Yes, powered by ultra-low latency edge computing and 5G network slicing.
Because latency is the enemy of remote medicine.
It really is. With standard internet protocols, the data packets have to travel to centralized servers, creating a delay. And a half-second lag during a delicate neurosurgical maneuver. That is catastrophic.
Yeah, you cannot have lag when someone is cutting into your brain.
Exactly. But 5G edge computing processes the data locally, practically eliminating the transmission delay.
Meaning a world-renowned cardiovascular surgeon sitting at a haptic console in Tokyo can perform an intricate valve replacement on a patient lying on a table in a rural clinic in Montana.
The surgeon moves their hands in Japan, feels the physical resistance of the tissue through haptic feedback.
Which is incredible.
Right, and the robotic arms in Montana mirror that exact movement in the same millisecond. Network slicing ensures that the data stream for the surgery gets absolute, uninterrupted priority over the network.
This officially ends geographical destiny. Your zip code will no longer dictate your access to world-class specialists.
Historically, your access to elite medical intervention was entirely dictated by your location and your financial ability to travel.
If you couldn't afford a flight to the specific hospital where the world's leading specialists worked, you just didn't get that level of care.
You were out of luck. But telesurgery completely severs that link between physical location and medical access. The implications for global health equity are just staggering.
They really are. But, as with any system that completely upends the natural order, handing over the power of life and death to automated algorithms introduces a labyrinth of entirely new problems.
It definitely brings unprecedented legal and ethical nightmares. Because an AI is not an infallible, omniscient oracle.
Right. It makes mistakes.
The foundational rule of machine learning is garbage in, garbage out. An algorithm possesses no inherent medical wisdom. It is purely a reflection of its training data.
Which introduces the massive danger of algorithmic bias.
Exactly. Think of it like training a master sommelier exclusively on French Bordeaux wines. They become unparalleled experts at identifying every subtle note of a Bordeaux. But if you hand that sommelier a complex Japanese sake, they don't just fail to identify it. Their training forces them to confidently miscategorize it based on their limited internal framework.
Oh, wow. And that plays out with terrifying consequences in medicine.
It really does.
Because if a diagnostic algorithm is trained predominantly on health records and clinical trials from, say, middle-aged men of European descent, it builds its baseline of normal around that specific demographic.
Exactly. This is exactly how it played out with certain pulse oximeters.
All right. During the pandemic.
Yeah. The optical sensors were calibrated primarily on lighter skin tones, meaning the infrared light scattering didn't accurately read blood oxygen levels through higher concentrations of melanin.
So the tech confidently delivered inaccurate readings for patients of color,
leading to delayed interventions. If an AI misinterprets a patient's genetic profile or symptom presentation because it lacks sufficiently diverse training data, it will confidently output a fatal misdiagnosis.
which is terrifying. If the AI flat out says this patient's scan is clean, the very real danger is automation bias.
Right, where the human doctor simply defers to the machine's perceived authority and sends a sick patient home.
The research insists that the doctor of the future must actively fight this impulse and act as a rigorous auditor, constantly filtering the AI's decisions through scientific and ethical lenses.
The physician is the final, vital safeguard against the black box of the algorithm. But that safeguard dynamic is creating an impending legal crisis regarding shared responsibility.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Consider a scenario where a patient presents with complex symptoms. The AI synthesizes the data and recommends an aggressive, high-risk surgical intervention. The doctor acts as the auditor, reviews the probabilistic data, agrees with the machine, and proceeds. But it turns out to be a catastrophic failure. The AI hallucinated a connection that wasn't there, and the patient suffers permanent harm.
It's a nightmare scenario.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, if you are the patient waking up from that surgery? Who are you actually holding legally responsible in that chain of causality?
This is the liability matrix that will absolutely consume medical jurisprudence for the next 50 years.
Do you sue the doctor for failing their duty as an auditor?
Or do you sue the software engineers in Silicon Valley who coded the neural network?
Or the hospital administration that bought the software?
Exactly. We are moving from a very clear bilateral doctor-patient contract to a murky triangle where a proprietary opaque algorithm sits in the middle.
Making decisions based on billions of data points that a human jury cannot possibly parse.
It's a massive debate. And because the very nature of what a doctor does all day is completely transforming, the way we build doctors has to be dismantled and rebuilt.
Medical schools have to completely overhaul their curriculums.
They do, because if you spend 8 years in medical school testing a student's ability to memorize organic chemistry pathways, you are graduating a professional whose core competitive advantage was automated out of existence 5 years ago.
Right. You can no longer train students to just store info.
The focus must shift from rote memorization to rigorous critical thinking and data interpretation. Future medical students need to understand the statistical weights behind a neural network's output. They need to know how to spot a biased data set.
The AI is simply the modern stethoscope.
It's just a tool. The new curriculum is mastering how to wield that tool while knowing exactly when to override it.
Well, we have mapped out a massive shift today. Let's quickly recap the journey for you. We explored how the physician is shedding the impossible role of solitary memory bank to become a hyper-empowered information manager.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at how continuous ambient sensors in lab homes are pulling medicine out of the reactive repair shop and pushing it into proactive health architecture,
We discussed how natural language processing is absorbing that crushing administrative load, sparking an empathy renaissance that gives doctors their time back.
allowing them to actually look at their patients again.
Ah.
And we navigated the physical revolution of 5G telesurgery,
Yep.
erasing geographical borders, while recognizing the profound new dangers of algorithmic bias and shared liability.
It is a totally redefined landscape.
It really is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final lingering thought I want to leave you to mull over. And it builds on this impending overhaul of medical education we just touched on.
Yeah. Think about this. If the diagnostic heavy lifting, the pure scientific analysis, the genomic sequencing, the treatment pathways is entirely managed by a perfectly updated algorithm,
Right.
and the human doctor's primary utility shifts to acting as an auditor and providing high-level psychological support, empathy, and morale.
Yeah.
Will the most sought-after skill for getting into medical school shift from pure scientific genius to emotional intelligence?
Oh.
And if so, how will that completely change the type of person who decides to become a doctor in the next decade? Are we rapidly approaching a reality where the most effective clinical practitioner is essentially a highly trained psychologist armed with a diagnostic AI?
It definitely makes you look at that stethoscope a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.